blessing. And I do blessing things, blessing. And when I do them, I always smile, because blessing makes the world go round. Yes, blessing makes the world go round. Hi, Pistos. Oh, there you are. It's Blessing. In this video, I am going to be painting while also talking about how my friendsgiving for 2020 went. I know that we are like many months in advance from friendsgiving, so it was like, why am I talking about it now? However, I personally like to write about these memories regardless of how far away the time passed for them, because 2020 was 2020, so it's not like I really had time to write about these things as they happened. But I still like to cherish these memories and just really capture that for, well, not just me, but for you guys now. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to because I have like a couple of video clips, but I'm not the type of person who wants to go around with the camera and film everything as it happens, because I prefer like photography and taking photos with my DSLR and everything. But I do have a couple video clips that I was able to get. I just thought that it would be cool if I were to make these sort of blog type of experiences in my life, but instead of just having me talk about it, I like paint a picture related to whatever it is I'm going to be talking about. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And you may notice that the filming setup is a little bit different when I start painting, because as much as I love my DSLR, I've noticed that it's just a bit difficult for me to film and then edit the footage and upload it, because the filming is fine. Like, I have no problem filming, but the editing takes forever, because I have to constantly do like color correction and things like that. And even when I'm filming my DSLR, it doesn't have like the screen that pops out so I can see what I'm filming. So I've been, for the last couple of years, because I technically have been on YouTube for a while, but I would do a few videos and just stop because I'd be like, this is just too much work. But when I first tried to start up the YouTube thing again, it was like 2015. And because I got my DSLR in 2015, and it was fine at first, but it was just really hard because, oh, I'm flickering. Ooh, I'm flickering. Let me stop flickering. Oh. No, I'm still flickering. Oh, that means I need to charge this little ring light then so I can stop flickering. No, I'm still flickering. Well, fine then. We're gonna have me flicker. And so like, or maybe is it that? No, it's not that. I don't know why I'm flickering. And so I had started filming with my DSLR because it films 1080p, which is really nice. Or you could do 720 if you want to save space. But it was just really cumbersome. And so I ended up getting like an HDMI cable that connects to my TV, so I can like at least have a screen so I can see what I'm like doing, and that helped a lot. But it doesn't show me how much time I have left to film, because my DSLR only films in 20-minute increments because you don't want to overheat your camera. And so I was constantly having to like time myself at the like 10-minute mark. I stopped the clip and then do another clip, and all those clips just kind of became a lot to have to edit. But then on top of all those clips, I had to do like a lot of color correction, a lot of like increase the brightness without making everything look whitewashed, and it was just a lot. So by the end of the whole editing process, it got to like where I was exporting, and the export could take like 3 hours, and I'm just like, come on out. And I know I would like to build my own PC at one point, at some point in the future, but I just don't have the money for like the parts cuz I I have a brother and he built his own PC, and he told me the benefits of doing that is that whenever you want to upgrade a part, like you can start as inexpensive as you want and just like slowly upgrade over time because you know how to do it. And like that's really cool, but I don't even have money to get started. And so he told me that that's what he's been doing. He's just been adding parts here and there, which is really nice, and I'd love to do it. I just, don't have the money to get started. Because I figured can get, if I can build my own PC and have it have like a good amount of RAM, then exporting videos shouldn't take as long. Because my laptop, it thankfully does have like a decent amount of RAM, but this laptop I got, it's from the beginning of 2016 when I got it. So the specs are like, a little out of date or whatever. And I thought, well, maybe I should just take apart my laptop and try upgrading it. And so that's a possibility too, but I would really like to have my own PC. So anyway, I've changed up my setup because I want to, this whole new year and everything, 2021, I got some great advice from my friend Kathleen over at the Living Lumos. I'll put her channel link or whatever in the description in my blog and everything. But she has a YouTube channel. She has over 200 subscribers, or maybe she just got to 200 subscribers. Something around 200 subscribers, she said. She also does like Instagram and TikTok. And she told me, like around New Year's Day or whatever, maybe it was New Year's Eve, I think, she had brought her filming setup to our friend Josh's house, and I got to just see like she uses her phone to film, and she has these like lights that she bought herself for Christmas, and it only cost like $40 or something. And she was just giving me tips. She was like, you don't need like a full on fancy like filming setup. You just need a camera and like a light. And so I was like, maybe I have been overcomplicating this YouTube stuff, because now that I can see myself, I'm like, oh, I am such a mess, oh gosh. Normally I don't see myself till after I film and edit the footage, and I'm just like, whatever happens happens. But now I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? um and so, because I tend to overcomplicate things, I tend to overthink things, and that has just been kind of like, I guess you could say, like a personality trait or something. Because even with my business, there have been product lines that I've put on hold or like completely scrapped because I was just thinking way too extravagant instead of just listening to what you guys want. But I tend to overthink things, and I was overthinking it with like the YouTube stuff and everything, and so I was like, I have the old iPhone SE, so like the first generation iPhone SE, but it's updated to the latest iOS. I mean, I highly doubt it'll get iOS 15. Like, we're just gonna be honest here. And hopefully, by the time the year is up, I can upgrade this iPhone. Even though I got this iPhone for Christmas of 2019, and it still works like it's a dream. But if it doesn't get the latest iOS updates, then that is like time to upgrade or whatever. But I bought it outright, and it was only like $130, and so I was like, well, I own a new iPhone, but before that I had the 4S, and it was like on its last legs, and whole ordeal. No one asked, but So I say all this to say, like, it has a decent camera for like the back or whatever, the behind camera, and it does 1080p. Actually, with the latest iOS update, it now does 4K. I don't know about exporting a 4K video. Why would you want 4K footage of me painting? I don't know. But it does 1080p, which I set it to. And now I'm using the front facing camera, which I know the front facing camera on this SE is not as good as like other selfie cameras, but I mean, you know, it's better than my 4S. So anyway, I'm just going to talk about what I did for Friendsgiving 2020, and I hope you are not too bored with my spiel of like why the filming setup is different. And I will admit, it's gonna be the footage will be a bit shaky because I have like this gooseneck clip and it shakes a little bit whenever I'm painting on my table. I'm gonna try and figure out a way to where I can clip it onto something else that's not the table, but you can still see the like over the table footage because I thought maybe I should use my tripod, but then I realized that the tripod would not be on the table directly, so you where I can clip it on the tripod, it just is so far away from the actual table to where you can't really see anything from that vantage point. So I'm like, just bear with the whole, shaking every now and again. I'm maybe if I put some weights on it or something, it might prevent it from shaking. That might be something I can do. I have a little bit of rocks just hanging out, so maybe I'll do that. But anyway, thank you so much. Let's just get into the painting and the vlog and everything. So, Friendsgiving was Saturday and Sunday from November 14th and 15th of 2020. I got to spend time. So, Saturday, my friend Robert and I, we arrived at Kathleen's place in Wetumpka, Alabama, which was very fun. I had an amazing time with them. It was really cool. I got to meet her dog Goofus for the first time because she had adopted him. Her family adopted him because he just showed up out of nowhere, and they spent I don't know how many weeks. They took photos of him and like put photos of him around town to see if anyone would claim him, but no one claimed him. And when he first landed in their yard, he was very like malnourished. But thankfully the vet had told him that, just feed him and take care of him, and he didn't have like any, diseases or anything. So he's looking a lot better. He's grown a ton and he's super hyper. I love that dog. And I also got to spend time with Kathleen's cat, who she's had her cat Miko for quite some time now. I can't remember how many years now, but he's obviously the cat that I painted in the Happy Heart collection. That's that cat, but except I painted him as a kitten because he was a kitten at one point when she got him. So Saturday, we decorated the dining table. Kathleen had got a tablecloth that you can color, and she got some markers. She got it specifically for me, but for everybody, but for me to have something to do because I get bored so easily. And it was Thanksgiving themed. She managed to find like a very, very tiny section of Target that had some Thanksgiving decorations and stuff. And so she made sure to get a tablecloth for like something for me to do because I tend to get bored very easily. And she also had some ceramic pumpkin salt and pepper shakers, which I fell in love with. I love ceramic things. It's like my favorite. In fact, I was hoping in the future to start making some like ceramic decorations and whatnot, because there was this person who used to sell on Etsy, but she doesn't anymore. She used to make like these tiny ceramic charms and earrings she would sell on Etsy. I'm not trying to like sell charms and earrings. I was just thinking about making some stuff for me, and I've seen like people use polymer clay, and I'm just like, I would really love to do some cute things with that and like resin and stuff. Just don't have the money to do it right now though. And we also had some Thanksgiving plates and coasters and um, napkins. And that was around like the evening. Kathleen's friend Mary Anna, she came to celebrate with us, and I had never met her before, and she is like lovely. Um, like Marianne is her first name. I'm not like doxing her or anything. I'm making sure to not dox people. Um, and she's lovely. Like she's a couple years younger than me, but she's just like so adorable. And I just cuz like when she told me her age, I instantly started to think about, okay, what was I like when I was that age? And I was just like, man, that it feels like forever ago, but it's not forever ago. And I'm just like, man, the amount of stuff you learn about life, like after you graduate, after you walk across the finish line of graduating college, or even if you graduate high school and enter the workforce, there's just a lot of like years of experience that you get, even though you're like the youngest amongst everyone, you know? And so before, she had arrived, we were preparing dinner. Dinner was steak that was grilled. Daddy Earl, Kathleen's father, one of my adoptive fathers, he grilled the steak, and we had some sort of corn on the cob that I think Kathleen said is actually a Mexican recipe, because he also grilled the corn, and we put tahine and another type of cheese on the corn when we ate, and it was just delicious. Like, I want to do that myself. I keep forgetting what it's called, though. I'll have to ask her about it. We also had salad with pecans and feta cheese, and the pecans were hand-picked by her father and their dog Goofus, when he wasn't eating them, of course. And it was really good. And we also had some roasted mushrooms and cucumbers. It was a really good dinner. I know I keep saying that like a broken record, but it was a really good dinner because like everything was done really well. My favorite was the corn, obviously, but those hand-picked pecans, like I picked my own pecans back in November/early December, and so I just enjoy hand-picked pecans, and hopefully I'll finally make some pecan pie this year. I didn't get to make any during the holiday season. I got really, really busy. Like November, I was so busy getting my shop prepared for the Black Friday sale, just to have like a bit of a tech hiccup that I had to fix on the actual Black Friday day. And then December consisted of me, I was mailing out packages to people. I was having to explain to people that due to like COVID and everything, your package probably won't arrive till after Christmas. Everyone, whenever you order from my store, you get tracking info from USPS, but even they were unsure. But everyone got their packages, was just fine. I also was in like a bit of a mini course. Well, it wasn't really a course. It was just kind of like a couple videos that were supposed to help me with like my keywords for SEO so that my website can finally be found on Google. And so I completely redid every single page of my products and like redid their descriptions and the copywriting on those, and that took about 2.5 weeks to do, and that was really intense. And so after that, it was like so close to Christmas time, I was just like, I am burnt out. I need to just walk away from everything for a while, and I did. But anyway, back to Friendsgiving. For dessert, we had pumpkin cheesecake. And while we were eating dinner, Mariana, she got to talk about what she's going to college for. I think she said she's almost done with her undergrad degree. She's going to school for something related to the psychology field, and that's really cool. I think I met a couple people who ended up majoring in psychology when I was in college, and it was just really cool seeing where they've ended up. A lot of them, because psychology is the type of degree where you have to end up going into a master's program afterwards, otherwise you won't be able to get any jobs. And so I know one girl, she got her master's and now she's like an HR person. And I just secretly giggle because whenever I hear someone who works in HR, I think of like Toby from The Office. And I was like, she's totally not like Toby, but it just makes me giggle that you have to be in the field of psychology to be an HR person. I mean, it makes sense, but The Office just made Toby just seem like he's just some out of touch dude. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, she's definitely not going into the field of HR, though. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think I'm not entirely sure where she's trying to go with that. I mean, I know she'll get very far with it. It's just, I try not to bombard undergrads with questions like that, because I used to hate whenever people ask me stuff like that, because the stuff I wanted to do with my life is so different that I didn't want my particularly senior year, because that's when a lot of people are asking me. I didn't want my senior year to consist of a bunch of people telling me that I'm going to be a failure and that my dreams aren't going to be able to be accomplished and this, that, and the other thing. It ended up happening anyway. People ended up telling me that anyway, but not nearly as much as it would have been if I actually told them that because I want to publish my own children's books. I also want to own a business, which I am right now, and I want to do international mission work. And so those are my truest of passions. Because I love to travel, and doing mission work is not only do you get to help people out, but you have off time too, because people think, oh, mission work, all you do is work 24/7. There's always off time. You just have to look for it, and it's not nearly as intense as working an actual job and then you go on a mission trip for a week for vacation and then you're right back at work and you just feel so blah. So those are the three biggest things that I want to do, but I didn't really tell people that when I was graduating, because I just, all my life people have told me that I'm going to be a failure and everything. And so when I was fixing to graduate, I had a lot of obstacles stacked against me to where I knew that I wasn't going to be able to land a job, to just get me started somewhere. For those of you who know me, y'all know I didn't get my driver's license till literally a couple months before I graduated, and I didn't get my own car a couple weeks before I graduated. And that obstacle, not being able to drive or have transportation, I was applying for jobs long before my senior year of college even started. I technically started my around the ending of my junior year of college. And so many jobs kept denying me because I didn't have my own form of transportation. And that was a really big obstacle, because my dad, I'm just going to say it out loud. I don't want to hide behind any sort of filter with this anymore, but he is not a good person. He is actually abusive. And one of his beliefs is that it's not a woman's job to drive around. It's not a woman's job to work and anything. A woman's job is just to get married as soon as it's legal, so 18, and have kids. And so when at first he was teaching me how to drive, he wasn't the very first person to teach me. A couple friends were teaching me every now and again, but it wasn't like a consistent week by week sort of thing. But when he was teaching me the summer before I started my senior year of college, he kept telling me that he doesn't believe that I should be driving because it's just my job is to get married and have kids. And I was not ready to be a mother. I was like 21, 22, I was not ready to be a mother, and I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that my own mother made. She had her first kid at 19, and she was married to my dad, of course, and she always told me that some of her biggest regrets were her not going to college and her not following her heart and her passions. And so when you see them constantly fight throughout your life, and she tells you personally to follow your dreams and don't let anyone stop you, because this could very well easily be your life. And when you have just a bunch of people telling you to just get married and have kids, it's a lot on you. And so I, didn't have a license, didn't have a car. I was walking everywhere and friends at the college were driving me places for grocery. And so by the time I was a senior, I had applied, I don't know how many jobs I applied for, both within my field and even at like fast food places, like places that weren't in my field. Because I was like, if I could just get a job somewhere, then I could get a place to live. Because you can't exactly live anywhere without, a job. And every single place rejected me, denied me, everything. And so naturally, some of my closest friends, I kept this hidden from like everybody, but now I'm like a bit more willing to talk about it, because I don't see myself as like a big giant failure like I did back then. A lot of my friends were talking about, well, maybe you should apply to grad school. The very few people who knew that I was struggling were like, some of them, not all of them, were like, maybe you should apply to grad school. And I was like, I don't really want to go to grad school. Because getting my bachelor's degree was, at the time, it was one of the hardest things that I ever did or had to do. And there were several times throughout my bachelor's program where I didn't think I would be mentally well enough to finish, because I didn't know it at the time, but there's just a lot of mental trauma that when I was out on my own, in the sense of being a college student and not living under my parents' bubble, it kind of just manifested as like you need to get this taken care of, or, And so I did finish. I graduated on time and everything, but I was so burnt out. And I talk about this a little bit, my artistic burnout, on the about page of my website. And I just because I didn't want to paint anymore. I didn't want to make art anymore, period. My final exhibition was really awesome and everything, but I was like, I don't want to paint anymore. I don't want to go to grad school, because if I went to grad school for art, I would be drawing and painting a lot more and just dealing with an even more intense environment, and I didn't want to do that. And my own Spanish professor, because I have 2 degrees and a minor, no sleep, she told me if I were to get my master's, it would basically just mean I'd be a teacher my whole life. And I had several Spanish teachers throughout my life tell me that, that I shouldn't be a Spanish teacher, because they said, I didn't realize that at the time, but they were trying to tell me that they don't get treated right compared to teachers in the STEM fields, because Americans think STEM is the only way to be successful in life or whatever. And they just didn't want me to accrue a ton of debt and get locked down. And even my own Spanish professor was like, if teaching is not really your passion, then don't get a master's in Spanish because that's kind of the only thing for you to do if you got a master's in it. She was like, you're fluent in it. There's a lot of like other stuff you could do, unconventional, quote unquote. But it was kind of the two fields that I chose. And I knew this before I even went to college. The two passions that I have, Spanish and art, they very much are like, you have to make your own job in order to make it work. And I knew that going to college and everything. I just was really hoping that I would be able to at least find just like a regular job just anywhere, because my biggest mistake was probably looking for full-time opportunities. I didn't realize the job market was so bad that they weren't hiring anyone full-time like at all, and also not knowing how to drive. But like I said, that wasn't my fault. So I say all this to say that like I don't like to constantly ask undergrads, what are your future plans for your life or whatever. I know it's like a common, what do you call it? It's a common like conversation starter or whatever. But you never know what someone's dealing with, and you never know if said undergrad is, like me, who's like fixing to be homeless, which is ended up what had happened. And so to just have to explain that you don't really know, it's just difficult because they always look at you like, well, did you just waste 4 years of your life? And no, I didn't. I really didn't. But to tell you my ambitions, but to also talk about the obstacles that I currently have, it's just too much for like a short answer conversation question. So I don't know what she's planning on doing with her degree. But, I believe just getting to know her for a little bit, I know that she'll go far with whatever she decides to do. Anyway, talking a little bit too much about my life, but anyway, we then watched the movie, called Big Fish. It actually is a movie based in Wetumpka, and so it's like really cool that Kathleen lives in a town or like her family. They have the strongest like history in that area. Like I think they settled there as colonists. They were the founders of the church that she grew up in. Her parents got married at that church. Like just strong history there. I sometimes wish I knew a lot more about my own family history. And I think this year I might want to try and like reach out to my Nigerian family members just to like ask them, because I would love to go to Nigeria someday. Anyway, and so it's a really great like heartfelt movie based in Wetumpka, and it made me cry. The ending made me cry. I'm an emotional person, but that ending I just couldn't stop crying. It's a really good movie. And it wasn't like just in Wetumpka. Like they actually, she was telling me, so she like knows the movie in and out. So there's this part where they're like at Auburn, but it's not the actual Auburn campus. It's the Huntington College, which is another college in Alabama. And she was like, yeah, that's actually Huntington. It was just really hilarious because I can't remember, but she said it was kind of like a really weird reason why Auburn wouldn't let them film at Auburn. But I mean, whatever. And there was also some other parts of Alabama that they were at too throughout the movie. And I just think it's so cool learning about things like that because, I live in Georgia, and now within the last decade or so, Georgia has kind of become the like poppin' scene for like Hollywood to film TV shows and movies because it's cheaper than like Florida, Chicago, New York, and Hollywood. So they're all coming down here to the South and everything. And I mean, we in Georgia have a lot to offer. But they tend to stay in and around Atlanta, and like now they have started to branch out with like The Walking Dead kind of put Georgia on the map, and so like I know There's been some filming happening in Noonan. In fact, filming has come down to LaGrange itself, where I currently live. And even in our neighboring town of Hogansville, that was filming there. And I wanted to help with be a part of the filming process because they were asking locals to, like, be locals, but I had to work because I was working the night shift, and I hate working the night shift. Like, nope, not for me. Um, so I couldn't be a part of any of the filming for whatever they were filming about. But anyway, so I just think it's so cool how, because Stranger Things, the show Stranger Things, all of that was filmed in Georgia. And my friends and I had binge watched it. This was like 2019. So I binge watched all 3 seasons for the first time. And so for like New Year's, my friends and I were like rewatching it. And we were pointing out like various parts of like, oh look, that's like the pencil building in Atlanta or whatever. And I have a friend, he actually met the cast and crew because they were filming by the church that he worked at the time, and his dog, like Millie Bobby Brown, she like loves his dog, and she spent a lot of her off time playing fetch with his dog, and it's the whole thing. Anyway, so like, I just say all this to say that like, filming movies and living in an area that like has a bit of a filming scene that's not like LA or whatever, it's just very like cool because the stereotype that people have of the South is that we're all just a bunch of like rednecks who haven't finished like the 3rd grade or whatever. And while my great grandmother never finished the 3rd grade, I will say we do have a lot to offer if you just give us a chance. Anyway, the Big Fish movie was really, really good. She had it on Blu-ray. That is definitely a movie that I would like to purchase. So then I went to bed, and they went to bed. Like, Mariana, she had went home before we started the Big Fish movie. So Sunday happens, and Kathleen made us breakfast, and Daddy Earl let Goofus into the house, and so, I mean, he has a spot in the house where they do their laundry. I think he's like, he stays in like a little crate, and sometimes they open the crate so that he could run around in the laundry room. But they're trying to like get him to like get used to being like in the house, the actual house part, without like breaking everything. It's okay. He's just super hyper. And so Kathleen made breakfast, and I think we had eggs and toast. I think I didn't write it down. Sorry. But prior to her getting up and making breakfast, I got to spend some time with Daddy Earl because I forgot my walking shoes because I tried to walk a mile a day. Sometimes I fall off the bandwagon, sometimes I don't, but I was trying to pick it back up again prior to the holidays. Just, healthy habits and everything. It's always a pleasure spending time with Daddy Earl because we're both very early birds. And we were watching one of those TV shows where it's about like how things are made. I don't know why, but we're both like obsessed with learning about things like that. And then, like, the cavalry woke up and everything. And so then we went to a place called Jackson Island, which is I want to say it's about a 30-minute drive outside of Wetumpka, because in the Big Fish movie, there's a little town called Spectre, that is actually just like a movie set or whatever that they created for the movie. But the Spectre town is located on Jackson Island, which is like a private island, but they allow people to come in, and we got to see Spectre. So that was my very first time ever seeing like a movie set or being on a movie set. And so even though the buildings look run down, like that was part of the movie, I'm not going to spoil the movie for you guys. But that was part of the movie, and they keep the set maintained because it's a really big tourist area. Well, not like a super big tourist area. I mean, we're talking about a very odd spot of Alabama. But it gets enough tourism to keep everything maintained, and it's a beautiful area. The island is so beautiful. There's Spanish moss trees everywhere. It's like just gorgeous, and there's like a river that runs through everything. And to get there, it only costs like $3. But if you want to camp, it's like $10 a night, and that's like just so cheap to see like all of that stuff. And you can even bring your boats and everything. And it's just really cool. So one of the quirks of Spectre is that they have you take your shoes off and throw them on like a pole or whatever. So you can still do that. And they said that often, ever so often, they take the shoes down and donate them to like, Goodwill and other places that where people could use those shoes and everything. And so it was just covered in shoes. It was like so cool. And there were just fall leaves like everywhere. And I just felt like the breeze. And we went there. The sky was very cloudy. So we were worried about the rain. But it was just really peaceful because I could hear nature, and I could just, when you're like at a spot where when the wind blows and you can hear the leaves and you don't hear like a bunch of cars and ambulances and people, shooting each other and stuff. It just has like a totally different feel to everything. And so that was just really cool. We got to walk around the actual movie set, and I was just like, wow. So all these houses, they look like real houses in the movie, but if you actually look at them, they're just hollowed boxes, basically. So I started to wonder, like, okay, how many other houses are actually like that in movies? So anyway, it started to sprinkle by the time we made our way to the fake church. And so we decided to sit at the fake church because it had like shade from the rain or whatever. And so next thing I know, we see the goats. There's a bunch of wild goats that just kind of governed themselves. They were out in the distance. And so when it started to sprinkle, all of a sudden they were like running from way over yonder and started stampeding towards us where we happened to be sitting at, and we started to panic. But then when the first couple goats made it to the church, they went under the church because apparently there's a lot of like hay and food for them, which we didn't realize, but we could smell like the goat poop. We just didn't know where it was coming from, but it was under the church. And it provided the perfect shade for them. And so I filmed like the goat stampede or part of it, because by that point my DSLR was fixing to die, so I couldn't film like a ton of footage because I was still trying to take photos and everything. And so it was like the biggest goat stampede ever. And it was hilarious because had we left when the sprinkles first started, we never would have got to see the goats in that sense and everything. And that's just like a once in a lifetime opportunity for that to happen. Because Kathleen said this was her first time going to Spectre because she says she wanted her first visit to be special. And well, it was. And so then, when the rain stopped, it wasn't like heavy rain, it was just like sprinkling. When it got better, we started to just drive around, and like, when we were driving around, I looked out into the river, and I could have sworn I saw like an alligator or something in the water, because it was going against the current, so it wasn't like a branch or anything, and it looked very scaly and whatnot, but I didn't want to say anything because, I didn't want to, like, get them to stop driving or whatever, but I think it was like an alligator or a crocodile, or I never know the difference, or whatever. So then we went to the area by, like, the boats. There weren't any boats out today, but we saw, like, a blue heron, it was beautiful. Seeing them like take off and fly is like one of the most beautiful things ever in terms of like birds. And I also saw like a white bird in the distance, which I have photos, you know, they're all going to be on my blog and everything. And I'm going to try and sprinkle a couple of them in this video. But I saw this like white bird, maybe it was a crane or something. Um, but it was really pretty. It was way out in the distance. And Kathleen, she found a beautiful rock that she decided to take home with her. And so found some other rocks I would like to take home with me too. And I also found a feather, which I took home with me, but apparently it didn't survive the ride home because by the time I got home and I took it out, it was completely brittle and cracked and everything, unfortunately. And so for lunch, I got acid reflux from the steak last night, because for those of you who don't know, I don't normally eat red meat, but I mean, who's gonna say no to steak? So I had acid reflux, and so I needed to make sure that wherever we ate at, it wasn't at like, I wouldn't eat like a heavy meal or a meal that had a lot of red meat in it. So I think we ended up eating at a place called the Kusa Cleaver, I think. And I had the chicken Alfredo. I tend to eat white meat, or I eat vegetarian, or I eat seafood. That's kind of my, I don't want to say diet because that has such a big stigma, but that's kind of what I eat. But I do tend to eat either seafood or vegetarian, with white meat on occasion. And so we ate there, and while we were there, I went to the restroom, and they have just, their bathroom is just so old style, but it's like gorgeous. Because it's not even like stalls, it's just one bathroom and you lock the door, and it just felt so historic, like that building had been there for like hundreds of years or whatever is what it felt like. And they have this like window that I looked out of, and I got to see like the Big Fish house, because rich people live at the house that's featured in the movie that the main characters lived in. So it was bought by like some rich person, rich family or whatever, and it has a sign that says Big Fish house, and it's a gorgeous house, I'm not gonna lie. And I totally understand why a rich family would buy it. And so I got to see it at a different angle, and I took a couple photos of that, because sorry about the car noise. There are people who, even though this is like it's not like the suburbs, but it's just a quiet street, there are people who feel the need to rev their cars up nonstop. And so, that was just a nice little trip to the restroom. You wouldn't think about it, but it was, I don't know, I just felt like at peace, because by that point, it was, still 2020 and everything, and I had a rough year, as I'm sure all of you have as well, and that I just have learned to try and find peace in the most obscurest of places, and a restroom in a restaurant, like, it was just really cool, with like a window with a beautiful view, like, that's just really cool. So I had the fettuccine alfredo, and I played Pokemon Go, which was during the Electabuzz Community Day. I didn't get to play it a lot, because my cell phone didn't get a lot of service. And so I didn't get to play it a lot, but I did catch a couple Electabuzz. And then we basically went back to Kathleen's house and brought our things into Robert's car, because he was my ride, and we had a relaxing ride back to Georgia, and it was like one of the better friendsgivings that we have had in a hot minute. It was just really enjoyable, and the ride to and from was really cool too, because I got to see so many beautiful houses, because what I want to do in terms of like a home or whatever, I want to buy a plot of land and build a house. That's really what I want to do. But so what I'm trying to do, I want to save up enough money for land, and I want to put a trailer there first before I ever start to build. So not like a super fancy trailer, just like a single wide trailer, because it's perfect for me. And build the house, when I get more money for that. Because I just, my family, at one point, prior to my parents leaving North Carolina, so a couple months after I was born, they left North Carolina. They owned a house by that point, but then my idiot father decided to move us down to Georgia, so they had to sell their house and got ripped off for it because they had just bought it, just got the deed, and my dad is all like, we need to move to Georgia. And ever since then, we've been getting evicted from one place to the next, to the next, to the next, because he was convinced that Georgia had financial opportunities for him and his taxi business. And there was one point around 06, 07 where we found another house that they were trying to buy, but then the housing market crashed and they lost that, and so they were foreclosed. And so my whole life has just consisted of me having to move and get evicted from one place to the next, and it became hard for me to have friends because this was before social media and everything. So whenever you moved away, it was just like, you were a character that got written off the show. Like, no one talked about you, no one, talked to you and everything like that. And so I kind of just developed this, like, hard exterior of not wanting to socialize because, I was getting bullied in school too, but I was just like, what's the point of making friends when you're just gonna leave them, And so I don't want my future to consist of everything traumatizing that I went through during my survivalhood, because I don't call it a childhood, I call it a survivalhood. And so I just, I want to be able to have a plot of land, because if I can get a plot of land, I can pass that down to my own kids, That's like the biggest thing for, people of color to try and do. Instead of just spending your life in like a rental property or an apartment for rent, you want to like just buy land, build a house, or buy a house that's on land and own it. Because that's how you accumulate wealth. And if you accumulate wealth and keep that in like your family generations down the line, because you work so hard, because you struggle so much, but work so hard throughout those struggles, generations down the line, you'll have descendants who benefit from all of your hard work and stuff. Because, I don't know, it's just like a whole thing. So I love looking at architecture if I'm not the one who's driving in the car and everything. So let me talk about what this painting is about. Okay, so really quick, this painting is of one of the little goat babies that we saw during our time at Spectre. We had a lot of fun with the goats, y'all. Several of them were babies, and they were adorable. We didn't pet any of them because they're wild goats. All of them are wild goats, and several of the mothers were pregnant, and you know how territorial pregnant animals can be. But I believe I snapped a couple really good animal photos of some of the goats. And so I'm just painting one. I decided to use because Pantone released their colors of the year, and I think from what I read, they're using 2 colors for 2021. And so it's like this sort of lemony yellow color and this grayish color. And they were talking about how the lemony yellow is supposed to represent, like, the feelings that we would like to have for 2020, because 2021, because 2020 was so bad, and the gray is supposed to represent, what we're having to deal with and having to overcome and everything. So I decided to use those colors, and I also used a reddish orange and a dark blue because I was going to go with a more triadic color scheme, because red, yellow, and blue, yeah, they're technically not your primary colors, but artists seem to tell people that. But they form one of the triadic color schemes, and I decided to go with that because honestly, the red, yellow, and blue triad in terms of a color scheme is one of my favorite color schemes to use. I try not to focus so much on color over like value, but sometimes, well, especially when I'm painting, I'm just like, I try my best to follow those little color schemes on the color wheel, because it just helps me to make my stuff not look weird. And so when I have the 3 or 4 colors picked out or whatever, I then go to like values and stuff. And this is a gouache painting on my watercolor block that I made myself. It's kind of wonky, but it's my first ever watercolor block, so what can you really do? And I am trying to, I think I may have mentioned this in one of my other videos, I'm trying to do a bit more of a looser style that's just not as like not necessarily overworked, but based on the progress that I made with my Happy Heart collection, I got to know gouache a lot better, but I could tell I was like not overworking the paintings, but I was overworking myself, and I don't like that. And I don't like I love realism and everything, but I don't like having everything just look so hyper realistic and stuff. I like more stylized stuff, and I like stuff that's more loose and free and not so compact. And so I'm trying to just go back to my roots of what I like. And so this goat painting was done all in one go. I actually have 2 other paintings of the same goat that did not turn out well. And so this is like the 3rd time, and it turned out the best. So it's the footage you're seeing. But yeah, that's basically it about the painting. And I made the goat the yellowish color because it not only does baby goats, like baby animals, tend to represent a lot of innocence, but I thought adding it with the yellow color, the yellow Pantone color, I just thought it would sort of represent, what I'm striving for in 2021, and that's taking care of my own health mentally and physically, and just trying to like grow my audience a lot more. There's like some stuff from the cupcake trainings people that I've already purchased or I'm fixing to purchase, and I just want to like grow my audience, and I'm trying to make things a lot better, build my savings back up, because my savings was wiped last year. It got wiped, and so I'm still struggling with that. That was hard. That was very hard because that was just really hard. Anyway. And so the yellow goat just really represents like my hopes, and you're just striving for doing all that I can to have a better year. And obviously the gray, it complements it in the sense of like, I know what happened last year, and I know a lot of it stunk, but I'm not going to let that consume me. So that's basically it with the painting, and I just think it's so cute. And also, one of my favorite YouTubers, her channel name is Following the White Rabbit, and she does a lot of urban sketching. And so I've been watching, I think I've watched almost all of her videos from start to finish, actually. She didn't post a lot in 2021, because obviously you can't really urban sketch when you're in quarantine, right? And so her watercolor style is very loose and free, and I would like to go back to that, because I just feel maybe it was like all the anxiety and other mental trauma I dealt with last year. And I love the Happy Heart collection, but I feel like I was focusing so much on trying to make it look very prestigious and pristine and not listening to my own heart of like what I want. And I love all the pieces that I made, but I feel like I wasn't very free as I normally am with my art. So I'm trying to just go back to that, and her watching her videos is like a really big like reminder of like, watercolor, not just watercolor, any form of art can be pretty if it's like, even if it's like loose and free. Not everything has to be so stiff, I would say. My paintings aren't stiff, but I felt very stiff while making them. So I might just be projecting what I feel onto them, and I love her videos. And so I'm sort of taking some of the lessons that she talks about in her videos and just making it happen, because I'm still not very used to using gouache and everything. I might buy watercolors in the future, but I really love the results I get with gouache. And so I also would like to do urban sketching and plein air painting. I'm still working on my plein air setup. It's almost done. And when the weather gets a bit better, hopefully I can start doing some outdoor paintings and stuff. So that's good. Anyway, thank you for looking at the painting come to life and stuff. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'm trying to like start blogging and YouTubing and stuff a lot more regularly this year, because I figured, based on everything that happened last year, like, why not? And I've also, I kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit because I went on a bit of a mini hiatus last month. I'm trying to do more TikToks as well, because I just figured, like, I've had this business for a while, but it's just been a lot trying to like grow my audience, and it has grown. Like, it really has. I'm thankful. But naturally, every business owner wants to like get even bigger than they were the year before. So this coming March, my company turns 4 years old, and so that's a milestone, because most businesses, especially in this sort of like industry, don't last this long. And so I figured, what if I start YouTubing like an actual thing instead of just posting a video every now and again, which is a big reason why, I was talking about having to change my filming setup, because like, you want a setup to where, if you're, from what the biggest lessons that I have learned in terms of owning a business, there's a lot of biggest lessons that I've learned in terms of owning a business, but one of the biggest is that you want everything to sort of be not, well, automated in some degree, but just something to where you can streamline it. Because it's kind of like, think about the assembly line during the Industrial Revolution or whatever. Everything was just like a well-oiled machine, and if there was a kink in the machine, everything fell apart. You kind of want your business to run that way. So I figured, based on what Kathleen had told me, Living Lumos, had told me, I figured I was just thinking way too much about like the whole filming setup with my DSLR and everything. I was just making the editing process really hard because of the whole color correction thing, whereas here I am with this phone that automatically does color correction, makes everything look good fresh out the gate with just light editing. Like, if I want colors more vibrant or whatever, or if I want to do one of those black and white sort of performance art pieces, which, spoiler alert, there's fixing to be a bit some like performance art type of stuff happening in the future. And so I figured, if I can like streamline this, the video making part, then like the blog part, because I write blog articles like all the time, I just struggle with publishing them because photo editing takes a while, and so a lot of times I don't have videos that go with them, but I'm trying to put them together because I think that'll grow my audience on both ends, on the like Google front with my blog and like text format for the little spiders to crawl and like index into the Google search algorithm and on the YouTube front, in the sense of like having a video and stuff. I thought putting the two together would be a really good idea, but I needed a way to make it so that I can film and edit a lot easier. So by completely just changing my setup to where I stop filming with my camera and start filming with my phone, that just makes it so much easier till I can. I mean, maybe in the future I'll get a camera to film with. It'd be a nice thing to have, but right now that's just not in the cards. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching and like putting up with my little life growing thing or whatever with changing my filming setup and everything. And if you love this video, if you love my art, the biggest thing you can do to like keep up to date on all things Blessing VHR is becoming a member of the Peace Dove Nest. Link will be below in the description, which in the future I'm gonna call it like something funny and different, but right now it's just the description. And because by becoming a member of the Peace Dove Nest, it's completely free. You get an instant 20% off discount coupon on anything in my store. You also get sneak peeks on things that I'm working on that never gets shared with the general public in my socials or even on YouTube until everything's come to fruition. There's just a lot of different things that I email out to people. Not last month, because I kind of went on hiatus last month, but generally I send out one email a month where it's just like full on thing. It's a newsletter, basically. You also get a secret invite to our Facebook group that doesn't get shared with the public. So become a member of the Peace Dove Nest and you get all those things and more. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see y'all again soon. Adios!